All right, we're just going to open up with a regular non-Uber Cirrus, just to show a little bit of the playstyle of this build and something that it can do. This is a Poison, Bladefall, Blade Blast, Ethereal Knives, Lingering Blades build, utilizing Spellslinger, actually, as well as a lot of increased poison duration, all of the charms with cooldown recovery rate, and all of that type of good stuff. Trying to resurrect Spellslinger and see if it is something that you can still play. There's one build out there that's currently using it, but it's more of a Magic Find build that is also leaning on Mage Blood and all that. And I wanted to take advantage of some tech that we currently don't utilize too much. Let me turn off my orange filter. Wouldn't be a subtracting video or stream if I don't have the orange filter on. This build has been a journey, to say the very least, in making. I have spent, what is it? It is 5:30 p.m. I am not going to be able to stream today because I just started recording. I've spent the last 48 hours basically almost nonstop besides sleeping, working on this build. This is a league where Magic Find and Penance Brand and Arc of Surging and all the, the known broken stuff is kind of overshadowing the fun and, I don't know, dynamic, different tech and new skills and all that stuff that we can take advantage of. There's a lot of stuff that kind of gets enabled with those, all of the stuff that's in there. And with the Magic Find and Penance Brand, man, I could just... It's annoying, right? Because there's so much cool stuff that they added. I think we're going to have to basically wait until next league to really kind of see those things come alive. But anyway, this is kind of revisiting an old build, and I wanted to make something pretty much entirely from scratch that I didn't even look anything on PoE Ninja and see what I could put together. Trying to, make Bladefall, Blade Blast feel good again. The short story is, it feels pretty good. It has very high damage potential. The defenses are okay. They're not like uber defenses, although if you have decent evasion and you know the mechanics, you can do ubers pretty easily with this build, but it is not a super tanky build. The defenses are okay. We have a good max hit. Our EHP is actually, it's unfortunately a little bit on the lower side because we can't get as much raw life as I would like because we are using the old Ming's Heart. Basically mandatory if you're doing a fizz to poison skill. It's just way, way too strong. Let's just go over what this build is and what it can do. So, like I said, this is a Spellslinger, Pathfinder, Poison, Bladefall, Blade Blast, etc. And what I wanted to do was generate as many Lingering Blades as possible. And the cool new thing that we got this league is Ethereal Knives of Lingering Blades. And this will leave a projectile, a blade in the ground per projectile. And by default, at level 20, it will leave 11 projectiles and blades in the ground. This in combination with Bladefall right here, which is dropping 6 blades times 5 with Awakened Spell Cascade for 30 blades plus the Spellslinger or the plus the EK11 for 41 blades every single time that we're triggering both of those. And then we have a Blade Blast in our helmet right here that is then exploding those blades, and that is doing additional damage. The other thing that I wanted to do with this build is not use a Headhunter or Mage Blood. The availability of those belts this league also makes it very, very hard to not just slap it on a build and say, all right, there we go. I've always been very intrigued by the Maven belts, which basically convert the charges that you have in your build to a different type of charge. So with Alessia's Delight right here, what it does is instead of gaining frenzy charges, you gain affliction charges, which give you 8% more damage with ailments and 8% more effect of non-damaging ailments per affliction charge, as well as +1 max frenzy charges. So if we go to the Blood Aqueduct right here, and we generate some frenzy charges, which we are doing by using frenzy right here. We just get our own frenzy charges. Instead of getting frenzy charges, we get these affliction charges, and you can see they're kind of like this lighter glowing green color right here. They kind of look a little bit nicer. They're like the regular frenzy charges or the affliction charges at home. That's been in the game for a long time, but the cool thing that I want to take advantage of is the fact that we can now use Ralakesh and Patience, that we get all of the bonuses of frenzy charges as well as the bonuses of affliction charges. Even though the fact that we're only gaining affliction charges, we get all of the frenzy charge bonus as well, the attack speed, the more damage multiplier, etc. By stacking as many frenzy charges as possible, the max frenzy charges in our build, I believe I'm currently at 8. I was at 10 at one point. I'm killing the monsters too quickly, so I'm not hitting them with my frenzy. Normally in a regular map, you'll generate them very quickly. Let's see. We just got to hit 2 more. Yeah, pretty sure 8's my cap. Yeah, I'm at 8 right now. So that is 8 times 8%. That is a 64% more damage multiplier with Alessia's Delight. But Frenzy charges by default also give you 4%. So there's a 64% more damage multiplier. And then there's a 4 times 8, 32% additional more damage multiplier by stacking both Affliction and Frenzy charges, which is something that you couldn't really previously do without the new Ralkesh and Patience. That's basically the idea behind the base damage, is we are generating as many blades on the ground, and then we are blowing them up with Blade Blast. Now, you'll notice that I actually have Blade Fall in the 6th link. The reason for this is because Blade Blast is kind of delayed, right? It only will trigger, and it'll actually blow up to 50 blades. So ideally, we would get 50 of them. I actually previously this morning had Blade Blast in my 6th link and Blade Fall in a 4 link up here, but the delay, right? The first cast will actually not blow anything up. You'll see if I go down here when there's no blades, you'll see a single Blade Blast in the middle right there where my mouse cursor is. You know, it's not really triggering that much. However, we get the full Blade Fall effect, and I'd rather 6th link the Blade Fall, kind of front loading the damage, and then pushing our Blade Blast as high as possible in a Devouring Diadem within a power here. We do have a level 29 Blade Blast, and this is kind of doing the supplementary secondary damage. And in fact, if we look in PoB right here, and we look at our Blade Fall, we see our Blade Fall is at 1.4 million DPS per, and we're hitting about 5 per, so we're at 5 times 1.4 million DPS on the Blade Fall. But then the Blade Blast is hitting, you know, roughly 5 per, and I'll show you guys how I tested the number of poisons per monster. But this is assuming 5 poisons per Blade Fall and 5 poisons per Blade Blast. Both of them are getting around, let's see, 1.4 times 5. So about 7 million DPS on the Blade Fall and about 10.1 million DPS on the Blade Blast. And there's a little bit more going on here as well because there's some other scaling factors. And then because it's a spell, it's a physical spell, we're doing things like going for physical as extra chaos. I just unspec this for some quality of life, but things like physical as extra chaos are really good. Increased damage over time, where poison, increased spell skill gems, physical spell skill gems, +1 all. And yeah, that's the basis. The other cool thing that we have is they did change the alternate quality, or they changed the quality of Spellslinger. So now it gives you an additional 20% of the damage of the equipped wand. If you don't know how Spellslinger works, it will actually give you the base damage of the wand. So you see I do about 225 or so physical damage right here. That 225 physical damage will get added to my spell as well as flat damage, which is a really neat interaction. So this is a very unique wand where I rolled physical damage. I used an essence, and this is a very, very easy craft, right? I rolled physical damage until I hit dot multi, and then I just multi-modded it. And I'm actually crafting kind of a hybrid physical damage wand as well as dot multi, as well as +1 all. It's like a weird hybrid setup right here. So this build scales in a very unique way where we're stacking frenzy charges as well as stacking flat physical damage, as well as having a physical wand, as well as scaling the levels of all the gems. So the other thing that I wanted to do is, because I am not using a Mage Blood, I really wanted to take advantage of the full Flask Finder setup. You know, Mage Blood is great, but I wanted to go full Flask Finder. And so you'll notice that my flasks are just not 100% uptime. It's difficult to get all the way up. But I'm getting as much flask duration as possible, as well as much flask charges gained as I possibly can, which also stacks with our Pathfinder Ascendancy right here, which will give us 3 charges every 3 seconds. And we scale this as high as possible to get more than that. You'll notice that I'm actually gaining 6 flask charges every 3 seconds. And then my flask will use when charges reach full, and they will constantly be triggering and going off. We are actually capping our res and getting most of our defenses from our flasks right here. So you'll see that I don't have capped res at all. We're using a Progenesis, a Taste of Hate, a Topaz flask with life regen on it. The prefixes that we want are increased charge recovery or increased duration or reduced charges per use. You don't want just increased max charges. You want it to use as few charges as possible or gain as many charges as possible to make it easier to sustain that 100% uptime. And yeah, I just equip my flasks and they will immediately trigger after 3 seconds. And then we're off to the races. And as long as I'm hitting any monsters, I have 100% flask uptime. So if I'm just sitting in my hideout, there's a little bit of a downtime that you can see. But if I'm hitting any monsters or gaining any charges, then you know, I'm well over 100% flask uptime. All right, and just to show a little bit more of the play style and what it's like. So other things that we're doing here is we have a Divine Blessing for Malevolence, of course, as is standard these days. We are using a Devouring Diadem, which gives us Eldritch Battery, as well as we want very specifically increased duration of ailments you inflict while focused. All right, we got a little sale here. Hold on, BRB. All right, where was I? Yeah, so we have a Malevolence right here, our Divine Blessing, which we can use because we have Eldritch Battery from our Devouring Diadem. The other thing that we're doing here that really enables the build is we're using a Balance of Terror with increased cooldown recovery rate if you cast Temporal Chains in the last 10 seconds. So the way that Spellslinger works is it has a built-in cooldown. You'll see the base cooldown is 0.6 seconds, which means, you know, less than twice a second you can trigger your skill. Like that's basically what it is. You can see right here, that is the trigger for the skill. You see a 0.36 second cooldown. It also gets more cooldown as you raise the level of it. But you'll notice the cooldown time is 0.36 with that 54% right there. But if I press Temporal Chains, it goes down to 0.31. So we get over 3 triggers per second versus the base 0.6 times, or every 0.6 seconds. So we do that by scaling a lot of cooldown recovery rate. I actually don't have as much as I would like. I have 12% right here, and I think, yeah, that's all I have actually. 12% right here, and then as much gem level as possible, as well as the Balance of Terror for another 20. A way to scale this build even further would be to get more cooldown recovery rate. It allows you to attack more quickly. Hardest thing about this build is actually slowing down your attack and getting that exact attack breakpoint. So if you've ever played Cast on Crit and you know about lining up your attack with your trigger rate, this is exactly the same thing. Unfortunately, PoB is not very helpful here. You'll notice in my PoB that I have it typed in, where is it? 119% increased attack speed. So PoB, for some reason, does not accurately estimate how quickly you're triggering. And so you'll see that my attack time, my trigger rate on my Frenzy is 0.33. A little bit over 3 triggers per second right there. So I'm at exactly 3.01. Which is, exactly 0.33 on the attack rate on the Frenzy. And this was the hardest thing to do of making this build work, right? Because I want this to, as long as the cooldown time of my skill is the same or lower of my Frenzy, right? So this is 0.33, and this number has to be 0.33 or lower, and ideally a little bit lower. So there's a little bit of wiggle room based on how quickly you're attacking, maybe some conditional buffs or something. But you'll notice it's at 0.36. So we can show this right here. If I'm attacking, you can look at it, and actually you can look at all three. I have 3 different triggers, and you'll notice that they're all slightly different. This is 0.38, this is 0.36, this is also 0.36. So these two are the same, and this one is even a little bit slower, but we don't care that much because the EK is, it's a little bit of bonus, but it's not the most important thing in this build. However, notice after I use my Temporal Chains, look at how quick it is. Look at how fast that is. That's when it's lined up. That's when you're not missing anything, and you want to see that. You'll notice the EK is a little flaky, but you want it to be just perfectly lined up every single attack. You want it to be triggering, and it's really, really obvious when it's working, right? This is, every single time, and then I have to wait 10 seconds, wait for the temporal change of the Balance of Terror buff to wear off, and then when I attack, you'll notice every other time, right? It's literally half the DPS. What we're doing is we are manually casting Despair and Temporal Chains. A thing you could do, you don't need the Despair one because we do have Nature's Reprisal, but it is nice to guarantee maximum Wither stacks uptime. So I'm manually casting Temporal Chains and Despair right here. The most important one is the Temp Chains. That's mandatory for the build. That will give you 25% increased cooldown recovery rate. And then with that, you'll notice you just get all these triggers right here. And you'll see how many poisons that we're actually inflicting. It's a little bit easier to see if I turn off the MTX. So you can see all of those Blade Blasts just going off. And I'm being very conservative in the PoB. I'm just saying you're averaging about 5 per on trigger, but you're probably getting closer to 10. But we're trying to be really conservative in the PoB right there. And that's the basic theory. The other one is we have this EK. It is not as high level, so the Spellslinger here is only level 23 instead of 28 in the other two. So that's why it has less cooldown recovery rate. That's why it's not triggering as perfectly as often, but we're not really worried about that. The most important is the Blade Fall and the Blade Blast. That's the idea. We have 3 different Spellslinger setups. We have Herald of Agony, which is giving us a little bit more damage, as well as a 20% chance to poison. That's kind of the other thing that you have to balance here. Make sure that your chance to poison for your skill is at exactly 100%. I mean, you can go over, of course, but you need at least 100% chance to poison here. So you need chance to poison on your gloves. You need Herald of Agony. You need all of the chance to poison on the passive tree. Do everything that you can to make that number at least 100. And then, yeah, we cast our Malevolence. I don't bother cursing the regular monsters as I'm going through the map, so that's not the important part right here. The important part is just having had cast the curses. Not the easiest thing to say. Having had cast the curses in the past 10 seconds to guarantee that you are getting that cooldown recovery rate. And the nice thing about the Despair portion of that as well is that you are getting guaranteed max wither stacks very, very quickly instead of, you know, kind of like a flaky ramp time. As long as you inflict 15 poisons, you're getting that max wither stacks. And yeah, otherwise the playstyle is very, very easy. I am just holding down Frenzy and walking forward. That's it. It's, you know, it's technically, you know, a 4-button buff or a 4-button playstyle here because we have these buffs. But, you know, every 10 seconds, you press 3 buttons. And then other than that, it is just a 1-button playstyle. Unless you're doing really juiced maps, you don't need to cast the buffs at all. We're doing enough damage. You know, you get a lot of damage from this, but you're still going to be at like 15 million DPS without casting the buffs, which is okay. All right, I believe this is a Conqueror map, so we'll see that in a second. What did I roll on this? Nothing crazy, pretty simple map. Yeah, it's a tier 14. I don't have any tier 16 Conqueror maps, unfortunately. I ran them all. Kind of running out now. And you can see the defenses are fine, right? They're not... I only have 3,400 life right here, so... that kind of feels bad. But that's the problem with using the Ming's Heart. Really tough to get max life. But I did my best to kind of have decent defense. And the thing is, we have almost a 6-second duration on our poison. So there's a decent amount of ramp time to hit that max damage. But once it ramps up, it lasts very long, and you're doing very solid damage after that. And you can just run around, you know, doing 30 million DPS with 6 seconds of just free time to walk around. And that'll kill everything except for high-level bosses in the game. So that is the playstyle. That is the way the build works. Let me really quickly show you how the poison testing works as well. So a really cool thing that we can do is take advantage of this cool little Viridian Jewel. It is the golden rule. It says poison you inflict. We will ignore the first 3 lines. Poison you inflict is reflected to you if you have fewer than 100 poisons on you. So that's how you can self-poison. And every time you inflict one, you will inflict one on yourself as well. Now, this will hurt ourselves really, really bad, really quickly, because we hit so hard. And so we also wear the Mauve Conquest, which says unaffected by poison. And this allows us to self-poison without hurting ourselves. What I'm going to do is use a manual cast on a level 1 Bladefall. And you can see how many poisons I inflict. I also do need to have the Herald of Agony up. And you'll notice that I inflict quite a few poisons. So 7 poisons right here. If I'm name-locked, I inflict, I think minimum I was ever inflicting 5 poisons. And that's on the low end. I think I actually inflict 7 pretty regularly right here. Yeah, so as long as I'm name-locked, I have my cursor on him. I will inflict 7 poisons, 8 sometimes. I can inflict even more than that. Keep doing it, just showing 7 poisons every single time I cast. Wait for this to wear off. And it can go a little bit higher sometimes too. Yeah, 7, sometimes 8. And so I was really conservative in the POB. I think I only put 5. And yeah, so that's how many poisons we inflict every single time. So depending on where you put your cursor, like if I'm down here, it only inflicts 4. If I miss by a lot, if I click over here, only inflicted 3. But as long as you're name locked, you're fighting a boss, you just click right on him, you're going to inflict 7 every single time. So yeah, that's how you test how many poisons that you're inflicting. That's just Bladefall with Awakened Spell Cascade. Now, if we put in Blade Blast, let's see. This is going to be a little bit trickier. So Bladefall like this with Awakened Spell Cascade. And then Blade Blast, we'll just manually cast it right there. So put down the blades. And then we got to wait until the poison wears off. And then Blade Blast. There you go. That was 11, actually. So you can see, we inflict a lot of poison. Let's do 1 Blade Fall right here. Wait for the poison to fall off. He even moved 1 Blade Blast. That was 6. So you can see that we are inflicting a ton of poison. So if I drop 2 of these, we have a lot of blades on the ground. Then we do Blade Blast. That was 11 right there. And this is just a regular medium-sized boss. We are very consistently inflicting a ton of poisons. Like, I can get this really high really quickly. And this is just manually casting. And we're doing it way, way faster on on our full Spellslinger setup. So you can see with this build, we're inflicting many poisons every single second. I was pretty conservative in the PoB because, everyone wants to be a hero and try to catch people out for making mistakes in the PoB. But as you can see, I did my testing and we're just inflicting a ton of poisons and doing pretty good damage. We can, after a few seconds of ramp, very easily hit the poison dot cap with this build. All right, let's go over the items and then we'll talk about the gems. So first off, we're actually going to start with the flasks here. So Progenesis, just best flask in the game. Of course, we're going to use it. Taste of Hate gives us reduced cold damage taken, gives us a lot of cold res. Very easy to have 100% uptime with it. It lasts very long. And then the 15% fizz taken as cold is just good for great defense as well. A Topaz flask that has regen on it. A Ruby flask that has shock immunity on it, actually. I'm actually immune to most ailments right now, which is pretty awesome. So we have shock immunity on the Ruby flask, and then we just have a regular Quicksilver flask for movement. If you don't need that 13% movement speed, you could put something else on there, increased evasion, something like that. But I need my movement speed. That's just me. Helmet, Devouring Diadem, like I said earlier, with the Unveil for increased duration of ailments you inflict while focus. You do want focus on your left click right here for 40% increased duration of ailments. And actually on my gloves, I have an additional up to 15% physical damage reduction while focused right there, which is just nice to have. Body armor, lightning coil with +1 socketed gems. That's, the most important part right there. +1 socketed gems is actually very useful. That allows our Empower to go up to level 5, and then that juices both our Blade Fall and our Spellslinger. That's the cool thing about Spellslinger, is it is a spell gem. It is a skill gem. And so Empower will juice it up as well, which is pretty cool. Same thing with an Empower in a Devouring Diadem, juicing up our Spellslinger and our Blade Blast right there. Amulet, +1 all with +1 fizz. I crafted this by just reforged fizz until I hit what I wanted. And then I crafted a prefix. I did prefixes can't be changed scour. So it was just a 1 mod amulet. And then I crafted a prefix and I slammed res. And I kept doing prefixes can't be changed scour and slamming until I hit res that I cared about. It was a tedious but very safe crafting method. Starter shield, you can use a Leper's Alms right here. It's a great, I was using it until 30 minutes ago. This is a great shield, 40% duration of ailments. Shared Suffering is really good for cleansing ailments off you as well. And then you want a Corruption for fizz taken as element, ideally lightning. Even better would be a double corrupt for lightning and cold or something like that. I really wanted to scale my defense even better. A shield like this is really good. I bought the Fractured Base for like 5 divines, just a tier 2 bottom roll fracture. Hit it with Essence of Greed until I hit good evasion and energy shield on the prefixes. And then I did prefixes can't be changed, Veiled Chaos Orb, unveiled the increased effective curse, and crafted physical damage reduction. This allows us to 100% cap our spell suppression, and we don't have to use a mastery for lucky. So we are 100% pure natural spell suppression, which is great. And because our life pool is so low, we do want to get as much life as possible, and that's very difficult. Like the Leper's Alms caps out at 80. So we can get a little bit more on the crafted rare shield right there. So that's the rare shield. Relicash and Patience, like I said, tons of benefit. You get all the endurance charge benefit. So you get the res and you get the physical damage reduction. You get all the frenzy charges benefit, which is huge. Get the attack speed, the damage, and we don't do anything with power charges. So that's why we use Relicash. That allows us to, like I said earlier, gain our affliction charges and have the frenzy charge effect as well. It's kind of a double dipping, and it's really nice. That's the belt, Alessia's Delight. Default implicit on the belt is really bad, so you just want to vol that for Malevolence effect. Ideally, gloves, chance to poison on hit, chaos dot multi while unique enemies in your presence. The interesting thing here is, like I said, the attack speed. The most important thing is watching that attack speed, making sure that you're not attacking faster than your cooldown recovery rate. So this number needs to be larger than the cooldown rate. So we have to make sure, do your temporal chains. This is 0.31. This is 0.33. You have to be attacking a little bit slower than your cooldown rate. So I very specifically have tier 4 attack speed. That is on purpose. 5% increased attack speed. And then I'm actually using a level 1 faster attacks. So level 1 faster attacks is 20% increased. And then I have 5% on my gloves. And this gets me pretty much exactly, right? This gets me exactly to 0.33, which is right where I want it. I could probably go down to 0.32, but it's close enough. And yeah, that's the hardest thing about that build. Make sure you're watching that attack speed. I was up until like 6 a.m. last night, recrafting new wands and everything. I could remove that attack speed there and just get 5% more on the gem. So that's the thing you could do that would actually be better. I could get some chaos res or something And yeah, but that's what I have right now. It's just do whatever you can to balance that attack speed. Then Suffixes can't be changed, Veiled Chaos Orb, I got the PDR well focused, and a little bit of armor and evasion. The rings, like I said, Ming's Heart is just best in slot, gaining up to 72%. Fizz as extra chaos is just ridiculous. Mine has cannot be ignited, so I'm ignite immune. If you want to make a ring like this, you can just buy perfectly rolled, uncorrupted Ming's Hearts, hit them with the catalyst for fizz and chaos damage modifiers, and I think that's Noxious, if I remember correctly, and then just vol them or double corrupt or whatever. Try to get something like cannot be ignited, cannot be chilled, stuff like that. Really good for just getting some extra ailment immunity in the build. This ring is absolute overkill. I was originally stacking more frenzy charges. So my original inception of this build, I was actually using, let me see if I can find it. Everything's turned into a mess after Gauntlet. There we go. I was originally using a Calandra's Touch right here, so I could stack additional frenzy charges, right? This would double this base. I would get 2 frenzy charges. I would get even more life, right? Look at how much life I get. That's the problem with Ming's Heart. I get 600 more life by taking that thing off and doubling a decent ring. But Ming's Heart, like, almost doubles my damage. It's that insanely good. So it's mandatory. Unfortunately, that reduced life and reduced energy shield stings really bad. You can just go for a regular Iolite ring and then just craft it up with increased chaos damage. You're going to lose a little bit of damage, but really not that much. I'll show you right here. If I remove this implicit and I just say, 34% increased chaos damage instead, I only lose 1.1 million DPS by just going for a regular Iolite ring. So you do not need the +1 frenzy charge ring whatsoever. That's what I recommend. This is just what I had. This was just based on my original plan using a Calandra's Touch. Iolite ring is totally fine. Again, do not worry about that whatsoever. And in fact, the POB that I share with you guys, I'm not going to have this frenzy charge ring because it's going to confuse people that don't watch the video. All the people that grab the POB and don't watch the video. The life of making Path of Exile builds. Let's see what we can hit. Oh my god. Okay, there we go. Rip. That's like 10 balls. All right, continuing along. I think our last piece of gear here is the wand. So the wand's very interesting. You can actually start with a very easy, cheap wand. Where did I put it? Right here. So you can start with Obliteration. Ideally, an Obliteration with Unholy Might on kill, which will give you additional 30% fizz as extra chaos, which is a lot of damage. Actually, with Unholy Might, you do, I think, similar, if not more damage with the Obliteration, but that's only on kill. And the attack speed balance, like you're stuck with the 1.5, which is bad. You actually want a slower wand. You're stuck with a 1.5 attacks per second wand, but Obliteration feels really, really good for mapping. I'd actually say it's BIS for mapping. Just getting that explodey, it's really good. With the Poison Prolif, we have a 100% chance to poison. So the Poison Prolif with that, Profane Bloom, you just blows up the entire screen. Really, really good. But later on, you do want to go for a wand like this. And then, like I said, I need a slow wand. So you want one that has 1.2 attacks per second with fractured level of all spell skill gems. The good news is, currently, at time of recording, this is very cheap. Because everyone that is going for big wands right now, for fractured wands, they want something like an imbued wand or tornado wand or whatever. They don't want these low-level wand bases because usually, that's suboptimal. But we care about them because we want to attack as slowly as possible. The 1.2 attacks per second is mandatory, right? Keep. The 1.2 second, I gotta be more careful when I do that. The 1.2 attacks per second is mandatory, right? Like, our attacks are way too quick right here. And so you could say, hey, maybe I can attack twice. This is what I was trying to do last night. Maybe I can attack even faster and attack twice as often. So my attack is going to line up with the trigger. And you can do that. That is the thing that you can do is push, instead of trying to be a little bit slower, you can be twice as fast as the cooldown. And so you're always still on rhythm. You're just going to have an attack that kind of does nothing. But the problem with that is since these don't line up perfectly, we have slightly different cooldowns on these. And it's always going to kind of be like that. It's tough to get them to perfectly line up with each other. That means that you can keep these two always going, but this one will be very off rhythm. The EK is currently slightly off rhythm, but we're trying to be as slow as possible. But if we're trying to go twice as fast, it gets very, very staggered. And you're investing so much in increased attack speed, you can be investing that in something else. So I do strongly recommend just going for a slow wand and not worrying about a fast wand. This was my previous wand that I had crafted. I actually hit Tyrannical as in like the first 50 essences. I hit Tyrannical here and I multi-modded. I went as fast as possible. And this was my original plan. was to do this with a very fast, let's see if I still have it somewhere. Yeah, 2120 faster attack. So this is what I was doing originally. My goal was to attack twice as fast. So I had T1 attack speed gloves, and I was trying to get that, right? So this is 0.36. I was trying to get this to 0.18 and try to go twice as fast and then just be on rhythm with that. The problem is, like I said, if you're going at 0.18, then you have this one at 0.38. You get way off on the rhythm, and it gets a little uncomfortable. So, and then you're investing so much in increased attack speed, whereas instead you could be multi-modding more damage instead of just attack speed. Strongly recommend going for a slow wand if you're going to do that. But if you're just getting started, an Obliteration and a Leper's Alms, great budget just getting started. The thing about this build is there's a lot of very specific items that we're going for here. So we're trying to get the cooldown recovery rate to line up exactly. We want our attack speed to line up exactly. So theoretically, it's not very expensive. All of these items are very easily accessible. A Ming's Heart, a Leper's Alms, an Obliteration, a Devouring Diadem, Lightning Coil, Alessia's Delight, Relic of Patience. At this point in the league, all of these items, well, the problem is everyone signed off after Gauntlet. Pre-Gauntlet, this would have been a lot easier. These are not very rare or hard to get items. The problem is we're trying to line up these numbers very, very specifically. That's when it gets annoying where you're like, oh, I wish I could buy this wand because it's cheaper, but I need this wand that has the exact stat that I need. I need this exact attack speed. And with lower supply, sometimes the price can go up just because, there's not that much out there. Let's see. In terms of bandits, I'm using Brine King and Ralakesh. I don't have anything to remove bleed right now. You do need Corrupted Blood immunity. You absolutely need it. We don't have that much life regen, and the Corrupted Blood will murder you even with Ralakesh. So that's super, super mandatory, is getting a Corrupted Blood Jewel. And the bleeding doesn't really hurt us, if you have Ralakesh on there. So it's no big deal. So the Brine King, I should upgrade the Blood Progenitor right there. That's kind of mandatory, I think, for the bandits. Oh yeah, the Pantheons for bandits. Kill all, of course, because every build is kill all these days. So for gems, we have Malevolence, Divine Blessing. We have a Despair and a Tempt Chains. Those are our manual curses. And then we have Shield Charge. We already went over the attack speed, level 1 faster attacks, and then a 0 quality Frenzy. That's the other thing. Frenzy can have 0, the level doesn't matter, but you want 0% quality on it because the quality, 10 and 20% quality, will give it more attack speed, a more attack speed multiplier, and that will make it way too fast. So 0% quality on your Frenzy. This will generate our Affliction charges, Shield Charge, faster attacks, just like that. Immortal Call, cast from damage taken. You need level 1 cast from damage taken, and then ideally a level 3 with 20% quality Immortal Call. Level 1 Vitality, this is for the Watcher's Eye, we'll talk about in a second. Frostblink, a Herald of Agony, and then our Tempt Chains. So that's all of our utility. In terms of damage, you do want your Blade Fall in your body armor. Like I said earlier, that is by far the best for quality life. Get that Blade Fall in your body armor. It'll front load the damage. You don't have to wait for the Blade Blast to go off. A lot more comfortable for you right there. Then we have Empower. Like I said, you want the +1 level of Socketed and the Lightning Coil. Empower, Awaken Void Manip, Awaken Deadly Ailments, Spellslinger, and Awaken Spell Cascade. This is our Blade Fall, and then that will combo with our Blade Blast that has Empower as well. And this has to be in the helmet. That will give us +1 Socketed Gems for the Empower, the Spellslinger, and the Blade Blast, importantly. And then the Blade Blast will still do respectable damage in a 4-link right here. And then we have additionally just a lone Spellslinger with the EK of Lingering Blades, very specifically, to linger those blades to explode from the Blade Blast. The EK is doing basically no damage. It's just for more Lingering Blades. With your primary 2 Spellslingers, you want those to be level 2120. Ideally, the regular one can be 21-0, because this one, we don't care about the damage that it does. Like I said, the quality will add the damage from the wand. That's what's very important for your 2 main damaging skills right there. Okay, that is all of the gems. That is all of the items. Oh, Anoint, you want Savagery, +1 max Frenzy charges. Technically, mathematically, again, I like the Frenzy charges for just quality of life. You get that pegged attack speed. Well, I mean, sometimes there's pegging, I guess. Warning, there's some pegging involved in this build. And you do get that 8 and 4% more damage in your Frenzy and Affliction charges. However, the technical most damage for this build would either be Toxic Strikes or Dirty Techniques. So you can do one of those if you just want to min-max damage. But again, I really like to balance more for quality of life, and I find more Frenzy and Affliction charges will do that for me. You have some options there for your Anoint. For our charms, the hard thing to do is mana reservation efficiency of skills. We need a lot of mana reservation efficiency. So I have it on 2 of my charms right here, as well as my That Which Was Taken. That Which Was Taken with increased effective curses, mana reservation efficiency, and then a really nice one here is increased poison duration for each poison you've inflicted recently. As we saw earlier, we inflict a ton of poison, dozens and dozens of poisons every single second. So this is very consistently going to be at 100% all the time. You can always mix and match between your charms and your that which was taken. So figure out what works for you. Worst case, you can drop your EK setup. The EK setup, you know, like I said, it's just a little bit of additional lingering blades on the ground. It's really nice, right? I'm adding an additional 10. I think it's 11 when it levels up. Yeah, and 11 blades every single time it triggers, but I'm not worrying about the trigger rate as much for this one. It's just a little bit of a bonus, better blade blast. 100% drop this if you're struggling with your mana reservation. And technically, you're probably going to do more damage by focusing more on cooldown recovery rate, attacking more quickly, and probably just dropping the EK and getting more triggers of the Blade Fall and the Blade Blast. So that's the thing that you can do right there, but this is the way that I've balanced it. So everything's going to be balanced around getting that increased mana reservation efficiency and the cooldown recovery rate. And then if you can get increased effective curse, poison duration, that's really nice to have as well. See, the passive tree is very, very default and standard. We are frenzy charge stacking. So we have these 2 frenzy charges, and then we are getting our poison duration, our chance to poison, our damage over time. We also have Lethe Shade right here, which is very, very nice for being comfortable for when we get afflicted by ailments. Increased duration, and then we cap our spell suppression right here. We take these 2 spell suppression nodes. The other thing that we're doing, you'll see that we have a lot of the Flask nodes. And this one, like, it feels bad to take these. These are 3 points that are only for the 25% increased Flask charges gained. That is so we can just sustain our Flask charges. I could probably get away with dropping this and taking something else, but it does give me that little bit of extra oomph, a little bit better uptime of my Flasks, and just nice to have. For the Watcher's Eye, I have damage over time multiplier while affected by Malevolence, as well as life per hit while affected by Vitality. And we hit so many times, it gives us incredible life sustain. So huge fan of these 2 modifiers together. Let's see how many there are. How many will there be? There are currently 6 up. So whoever's the lucky duck that buys this one for 30 divines, good luck to you. Yeah, really good combination of modifiers. Most important one, honestly, I'd probably say the most important one is the life gain per hit over the damage over time multiplier. Like I said, this build has plenty of damage, but that, you know, the life gain on hit is just so good for staying alive. We want 1 medium cluster jewel that has spiked concoction on it. This gives us Alchemist Genius, increased flask charges gain, and increased effective flasks. This will be up all the time because we're always using our flasks. And then we are stacking a combination of Brewed for Potency and Low Tolerance. So low tolerance here in combination with the Mastery right here, and more low tolerance. Yeah, I have 2 of them. This says poisons you inflict on non-poison enemies deal 300% increased damage. I have 3 of these. I have 2 low tolerance and the Mastery. That is for the first poison that I inflict on a monster, 900% increased damage. And if I wanted to go all out, I could stack even more low tolerances. If you really want to go all out and you want to like flex on people, you could do Vol Breach and then kill all those monsters with the Poison Prolif and Alchemist Mark from Pathfinder, and you can just one-shot an Uber if you want to set that up. It's really annoying to set up. I've done it in the past. Low tolerance is incredibly powerful. The big thing here is while you're mapping, that first poison that you inflict, it really reduces the amount of ramp that you rely on. I'm only at 405% increased, so going from 405% to 1300%, we're just getting so much more damage on that first poison, and it's really, really comfortable for, you know, when you're mapping and just killing the monsters without worrying about ramp. So huge fan of that. You know, if you're looking for just max damage to show in PoB, this is not the node to take. This is one of those things that in practice just feels really good, and I love this node. We're stacking that, and then Brewed for Potency, 10% increased flask charges gain. This allows us to sustain our flask charges. So I have 3 Brewed for Potencies, 2 low tolerance, and then 1 flow of life, just trying to get a little bit of that life back. Could get another low tolerance here if I wanted to, but yeah, just trying to get that life back. 1 medium cluster right here is Unwaveringly Evil, Wicked Paul, and Unholy Grace. This is just really nice, you know, a little bit of attack speed and some damage. And then we also, since we have a physical skill, I have a large cluster here with Battle Hardened, Master the Fundamentals, and Grim Oath. Grim Oath is really good. This is actually like almost 10% more damage if I take these 2 points, but I opted to go for quality of life, literally quality of life, willing to sacrifice a little bit of damage because this build has plenty of damage, and you know, just being a little bit sturdier, a little bit more alive is really nice. And then on the jewels here, on the jewels, a little corrupted blood. So you're going to be going for things like life, physical damage, poison damage. Big thing that you're going to lean on here is chance to poison on hit. You want to rely on this to get your 100% chance to poison. I actually only have one of these now, which is really nice. Do I have one? Yeah, I only need one. So I had more previously, but I rolled up to 25% chance to poison on my gloves, which allowed me to drop one of the other jewels. Because the increased poison duration is okay, but we have so much increased duration in other places, it's not really that useful. An upgrade for this build would be to go to 30% chance to poison, and then I could, go for a little bit different jewel here. Mana reservation efficiency, flask effect duration, damage with poison, all of these are really good. Cast damage over time multiplier, all really good nodes for us. Damaging ailments deal damage faster. So that's what you're going to go for on your regular small jewels. Oh yeah, and then the Balance of Terror again, like I showed earlier. So that's the build. There's a lot of stuff that's very flexible that you can customize for yourself. I tried to tell you guys about all of the options that I've kind of thought of here in the description below. I'll try to strip down to a more bare bones budget POB. It's not going to be the same. This is a type of build, like I'm trying to really get it across here, where you put a lot of time. I spent nonstop the last 48 hours. Like if I'm awake, I've been working on this build of trying to balance the numbers and make it all line up. And like the satisfying thing is when you hold down that frenzy and you see these guys triggering nonstop at like the perfect rate. It just looks and feels so cool. And you watch everything in the game melt. Even Uber's melt. It like has good Uber damage if you can stay alive. Again, it does not have Uber defenses. And yeah, this is a build that I'm really proud of. Put a lot of time into this, and it's something that I just kind of went into the build hole on my own. Didn't want to look up any external resources or anything, just try to come up with something on my own, revisiting an idea of something that I had played in the past, but putting a modern twist on it. This is not a build that I'm going out and saying you should play this or anything. It's just something cool that I wanted to share with you guys. Maybe it'll spark something interesting for you, and you'll want to try something yourself if you don't want to try something adjacent to it. Spellslinger, still viable, not the best thing in the world, but with the charms and everything that we have this league, not that bad. Still pretty doable. But that's it for me. I'm going to edit all of this long video. Oh my God, this is going to be a long edit. Not looking forward to it. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Next week is Last Epoch. Really, really excited for that. It's going to be good to take a break from PoE, and the game's looking really, really good. That Falconer looks really, really cool. I don't know if I'm going to play Falconer. Maybe the Runesmith guy, the Invoker dude. It's looking pretty sick. Also, I am going to start streaming again on YouTube. If you watched to this far, I'm going to go back to streaming on YouTube. It was a little janky when I first did it, and it didn't work out too well, but I think it's a smart play. So you can catch me here next week if you don't want to watch on Twitch. And yeah, again, thanks for watching. See y'all soon. Goodbye.